Okay, hello, welcome to a Bear in Mind's news time.
Yeah, just a bit of an entertainment news day today. Bit of this,
We're
bit of that.
we're starting off with a live reaction to the June trailer, the new one from
Oh,
yesterday. I have seen it already. Matt
I
hasn't,
haven't.
so
Mm,
let's watch it and then we'll come back.
yeah. We are watching separate feeds of this, so we are going to have to count down to watch this together.
Yes,
So,
five,
ready, James?
4, 3, 2, 1, play.
My planet Arrakis is so beautiful when the sun is low. Rolling over the sands, you can see spice in the air. The outsiders ravage our lands in front of our eyes. Their cruelty to my people is all I've known. What's to become of our world?
A boy.
Hey, Duncan, can I trust you with something?
Yes, always. You know that.
I've been having dreams about a girl on Arrakis. I don't know what it means.
Dreams make good stories. But everything important happens when we're awake. Hey, you. Put on some muscle?
I did?
No.
We are House Atreides. There is no call we do not answer. There is no faith that we betray.
Smile, Gurney.
I am smiling.
The Emperor asks us to bring peace to Arrakis. House Atreides accepts!
I know you. There's something awakening in my mind.
You need to face your fears.
Come with me. You need to be ready. You've never met Harkonnens before. They're not human, they're brutal.
The Duke's son sees too much.
This is why, June. Kill them all.
God in heaven.
Get everything with guns off the ground! Go!
This is an extermination. They're picking my family off one by one.
Let's fight like demons.
Dad, what if I'm not the future of House Atreides?
A great man doesn't seek to lead. He's called to it. But if your answer is no, you'll still be the only thing I ever needed you to be. My son. If anything happens, will you protect Paul?
With my life.
Only together can we stand a chance.
It's time.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, obviously the stuff we've already seen. I was excited for this anyway.
yes, I am as
I'm
well.
a huge Denis Villeneuve fan.
Yep, I
Um,
also very much love the Lynch film, and I know that's a controversial viewpoint, but I
When
do.
was the last time you watched it?
It's a while ago,
I watched it.
probably when we were in uni.
You see, I watched it more recently because I used to love it, but I saw a lot more flaws in it this time.
Oh, it's terrible. But
I mean, I mean, I love aspects of it, and I think that, like, I think the
I mean,
where the Lynch film really falls down is in its second half. So
it's
like
bad enough
its
that Lynch disowned the thing.
mm,
But I do like it. And I've seen the sci-fi miniseries, which I imagine is a more accurate adaptation, and it's fine.
I mean it's certainly going to be a challenge because it's a long, very dense book.
And obviously we're only getting half of it here, and we're never going to get the second half, so...
I don't know, like... I don't know what the crack with this is, actually.
It's half.
I don't
it's
know.
the first half.
Oh, of the first book?
Yeah, they're not adapting this. They're not adapting the whole book. And unfortunately, realistically, I just don't see us ever getting the sequel.
No, because it's not going to make enough money.
No. So it's gonna... it might
as
be...
is the way with Villeneuve films.
Yeah, I think unfortunately
Sadly.
it's going to ultimately be a good film that's disappointing because we never get a conclusion.
Or it could be that after the 18 months that we've had, and by the time this comes out, it'll be nearly 2 years.
A big budget sci-fi film might...
It might just be the right film at the right time, that people are so desperate to go to the cinema and see something like cinema with it. Because I mean, remember, this is going to be an IMAX film. Like, this is going to be a, if you have access to IMAX, go and see it at IMAX. If not, go and see it on the biggest, loudest screen that you can possibly go and see it
on the other hand, maybe stateside, it'll pull in enough HBO Max subscriptions to justify itself.
Potentially. So at worst, it might end up getting a HBO Max second half.
And obviously they're working on a HBO Max TV series as well, aren't they? So they may have put enough money into Dune at this point that the size of it will just get its sequel.
Yeah.
I hope so. I
mean, I suppose the other thing is,
I like injecting a little bit of comedy.
Yeah.
In there, I like...
Because it's going to be needed.
I love that
because it is
scene.
A dark tale.
I love that scene between Leto and Paul, where he's like, "You'll be the only thing I ever need you to be, my son." It's quite touching. I think Timothée Chalamet is the right person to play Paul.
Definitely.
Like, he's got that naive, wide-eyedness, right?
Which I think is going to be very important for this, because like, there's a few people I follow on Twitter who are like what do you call it, scholars, I suppose, like, and they have like quite dense literary discussions, and one of the things is about Dune, because obviously it's in the public eye at the moment because of the film coming out and what have you. And the books themselves have not necessarily aged that well through modern readings of them. They are quite like pro-colonial in a way.
I mean, ultimately it's a white savior story, isn't it? That's the main.
It's sort yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even just a white savior thing. It's a like almost an element of like,
he's the chosen one of the locals, kind of.
Well, I mean, there's that, but it's also the fact that it, from what I understand, the current reading of it is, it's more along the lines of like, colonialism is bad unless it's us doing the colonialism.
Yeah, it has that element of there's a good invaders, bad invaders style.
Yeah, and then like, but then the same person that I'm talking about who like discussed it, like they were talking yesterday because of the trailer drop. Obviously, it prompted of a different reading of it, that a slightly more personal one regarding Paul. Yeah. That obviously it's the fact that he does naively believe that he has to go to these dark places and he has to be this villain and this bad guy to make things right. And then, of course, obviously, you know, as the books go, he goes so far into it and becomes so powerful and like actually becomes everything in ways that he wanted to take down. So yeah, I'm very interested to see how it does, because like I mean, how it's been done, because I think there will be some modernizing to it. I think there is going to be some tweaking to the through ideas, at least, or at least the way that they've been interpreted from the book. Obviously, as you said, this is just part, like the first half of the book, which makes sense.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think you can get quite a nice arc out of that.
It's a cast and a half, isn't it?
Oh my word, yes. But I think it needs to be. I think it needs to be, because like especially if they are going to make a longer version of the story than was in the David Lynch version anyway. You need more depth in each of the characters. Like obviously Batista's playing one of the characters.
Yeah.
Batista has proven himself to be an excellent actor. But the character he's playing in the Lynch version was just a big dumb dummy. Like, you know, he was a gross villain and a bit of a butcher. And it was his brother, played by Sting, that kind of stole the show as far as those two characters went. I can't remember who's playing the brother in this. Actually.
I mean, you just look at the casting of the various like Atreides people as well, right?
Oh yeah.
Oscar Isaac.
Perfect casting.
Yeah, Jason Momoa.
Perfect casting. Yeah. I mean, even Jason Momoa. I'm not the biggest Jason Momoa fan, but I actually think that, like, within the context of how they're playing that character, he probably is the right person for it. And again, I mean, like, we're talking about money and doing well at the box office. Having someone like Momoa in there, who a well-known mainstream action star, might bring in the kids.
Yeah.
Right. When I say kids, I mean teens.
I mean, even Oscar Isaac, I think, could do that task. Timothée Chalamet could do that task. Like, they're all. It's
I can't remember her name, but
Zendaya.
Yeah, Zendaya. I mean, I wasn't even thinking of her. Like, I mean, obviously, stupidly enough, I wasn't even thinking of, like, because she's a huge name, and again, someone who has proven that she's got some real acting talent. I was more talking about the mother.
Zendaya is Michi. Is that a meme that goes over your head, or?
Yes, it is a meme that went way over. You know, the Superman gif.
I'll show it you afterwards.
But yeah, the mother, like, wonderful casting, absolutely wonderful casting, like, incredible actress who can do action. So needed for this film. Like, just brilliant. I'm
very excited for it.
Me too. I mean, like, I still haven't been to the cinema yet, and there is still a chance I might not go to the cinema until this comes out, unless Bond comes out first. I can't remember which is first.
Neither can I.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously we had Free Dumb Day this week, where everyone gets loads of gum for free.
Which makes potentially safe cinemas that were safe very unsafe again. Because there's no longer...
a lot of places a bit less safe, because it's like, hey, Boris has said that we can, you know, go and lick each other again, or whatever it is. So let's go and, you know, make something lethal. But enough of politics. Stay in your lane, Matt. Stay in your lane. Let's keep this to entertainment.
So...
there's a reasonable chance this might be my first cinema outing. Since, what was the last one I went to see? 1917 was the last film I went to see. On the IMAX. So this might actually be...
1917 was a long time ago, Matt.
It was 2019. Ironically enough.
I was making a joke that 1917 was a long time ago.
Yes, I know, James. I know. Yeah. Next.
A couple of other things I would just like to talk about. That was the main point for this episode, and I think we had a nice little discussion of Dune there. Next up, 2 new console announcements-ish.
Sort of.
Yes, we have the Switch OLED and the PC2.
Yep.
Switch OLED is it's a Switch with an OLED screen.
Yep.
Bit of a bigger screen.
Yep.
No need to necessarily buy it if you don't. Great if you don't have a Switch yet.
Correct.
Great if you play a lot of handheld and your launch Switch is showing its age.
Yep.
Especially as places like Game tend to do trade-in schemes for old consoles, right? I
mean, it's going to have a lovely screen. In theory, it will improve your battery as well because with OLEDs to create black, you don't need to actually have the pixels turned on. So
OLEDs use significantly more power, so it's a net gain. Have you had a look at like TV power ratings lately?
No.
Like, obviously all electrical goods have that power scale.
Have they gone up again?
TVs are basically consistently like a G, maybe an E or an F.
Really? They're that bad now?
Oh yeah. You can't get a TV that's, or at least a good TV that's better than.
Wow.
Yeah, TV's power, and obviously for a device you don't have turned on all the time, so it's not as bad as obviously a refrigerator, right? Is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You want that power efficiency to be good. It's one of the things like, do you want a power efficient telly or do you want a telly that's good while it's on?
Yeah.
Like. But yeah, they're not power efficient at all.
Well, I mean, yeah, fair enough. I think obviously, given the global state that we're in at the moment, with production and manufacturing issues, there was a chance
they've come out
that this was.
Nintendo come out and said there's no plans for a Switch Pro, and I believe them.
I still think that there was probably a chance that had. Obviously, silicon manufacturing is struggling a lot at the moment.
I certainly don't think we see a new Switch now till 23 at the earliest. Only because they're not going to release an OLED this year and then replace it again a year later.
I don't know.
2023 now would be the next time we could see a Switch 2.
I think it depends on when
I don't think it'll be a Switch Pro. I think it'll be a Switch 2.
Yeah, I think you're right. It will be a numbered thing.
Or still a Super Nintendo Switch. That is still what they should go for.
Yeah. No, I think you're right with the... Yeah, I think Super Nintendo Switch, that makes sense. Keep the branding. And there's a certain nostalgia-ish to it.
And then a Challenger is entered for handheld space.
Well, I think with the Switch 2... I think it also depends on when when they're comfortable that they've got a Switch 2 worthy game. Because I mean, obviously, if Breath of the Wild 2 does come out next year, then I think the Switch 2 will be waiting probably for Metroid Prime 4.
Yes.
So
the game that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, obviously, as we're about to go into the next one, is that Nintendo will have probably 6 months at least to make some decisions based on what's going to happen with the Valve handheld, because they can look at that and think, well, what could we get away with?
I can tell you what will happen with Valve handheld. Not much. People buy it, people will like it, and that'll be about it.
Yeah,
and I say that's someone who's registered for one.
Yeah. I mean, like, in theory, because I'm not a PC gamer, but in theory,
it's a way you could PC game and like.
Well, yeah, because
especially if you've got a dock with it, right?
Especially if you got a dock with it, yeah. But I would be, if I had the money for it, because obviously it's going to be about for the top one with the bigger built-in internal space. Anyway,
I've registered for the middle one.
Yeah, because you can expand it, but obviously you do need to buy like really fast memory cards for it.
So you can get memory cards, like SD cards for it.
But which they said you can play games from. So you, in theory, want
technically that's what you're doing in a Switch, isn't it?
Oh yeah, but I mean, in theory, you'd want a fast one.
Yeah, but you'd only need an Extreme. You could probably even get away with an Ultra, but I'd go with talking about SanDisk speed brands there, not specifically.
Yeah.
But
which I didn't realise were owned by Western Digital until the other day.
yes, or is it SanDisk that owns Western Digital?
I think it's Western Digital owns SanDisk, or it's the same parent.
The hard drives are the same.
Yeah, so I think that like, if I had the disposable income for it, I would be tempted, because as a means into the PC gaming space, or even assuming I didn't get an Xbox and you can run Game Pass on this, because it does seem that you can.
In theory,
you're
gonna need to do work on your end.
Yeah.
It's
then
a PC
it wouldn't...
with everything that kind of goes along with that. There's nothing stopping you replacing Steam OS with Windows.
Yep. Which potentially, once Windows 11 is available, might actually not be the worst thing.
It just requires some effort on the user's part. But
which
the fact that they're releasing a relatively open piece of hardware is good.
Yeah, but at the same time, it will have those limitations
to do. Like, it means I probably won't bother with a Switch OLED.
Yep.
Its big appeal to me is the in-baked library, right? Like, especially if you have a Steam library. All those indie titles you pick up in the sale and never get around to playing, it's the perfect machine for it.
Of course it is, yeah. I often say, and I think I mean it, like, that my favourite console ever was my PSP.
Yeah.
Because, like, it came at the right time for me, where, like, it had plenty of games I wanted to play on it. It was portable. It had a decent battery life, actually, for what it was. And it actually meant that, like, I was spending a bit more time with my family, because I was in that, like, late teen, early 20s. I was still living at home. I was, like, just ignoring them and sitting them in my bedroom playing games.
Well, you'd play that in the living room, and
I'd play it in the living room. So while they were watching whatever shite they wanted to watch, which wasn't necessarily what I wanted to watch, I could sit down there with them, play Tiger Woods or Fight Night or whatever else I was playing, and actually interact with people. And I imagine that, like, something like this is that perfect one for people who probably have a family. Like, maybe maybe the kids are taking over the living room TV and watching Octonauts or something.
Like, it's not the it's not for PSP for me, but it's a similar logic to for me and the game. Like, if someone said to me, like, you can take one console and catalogue of games to a desert island, it'd probably be the Game Boy / Game Boy Advance or the Game Boy Advance / DS that I would take. I think get away with both, because obviously the DS plays Game Boy Advance and DS games, the Game Boy Advance plays Game Boy Advance and Game Boy games, right? So if I could take one of those two libraries, if I was going to be stranded somewhere for the rest of my life, it'd be one of those two consoles and one of those two libraries.
Oh, it'd be the PSP, hands down, for me, and all the UMD films that came with it. Like, because obviously that's the other bonus. You only get a game library,
you don't get the UMD. No, if I'm cheating to get 2 generations worth of, you can take your UMD films.
Exactly, yeah. But I thought that, like, so I think that there's totally a reason for this to exist. I think
big. All respects of it is actually quite comfy.
Yeah, I mean, it does look ergonomically designed, but it is
that weird button placement, right? But it's got 4 back paddles. So if the face buttons are a little bit close to the analog stick for you, there's no stopping you programming them to the back panels, basically.
Yep.
like ABXY on those.
Plus, obviously, you've got the two mouse stroke touchpad things as well.
Like there's a game that's just come out called Death's Door.
Mm.
That's a Zelda style game, PC and Xbox exclusive. Not on Game Pass though. So that's perfect for a machine like this.
Mm.
Hades, Hollow Knight, all those games. Like people talking about its ability to play AAA, and sure, it's got it, but I don't think that's where it's gonna shine.
I think, I mean, certain things like actually strategy games and more usually PC-esque games, like they were showing off Disco Elysium quite a bit in the footage,
and those mouse pads if they work well.
Yeah, fantastic.
Like
Absolutely
PC
fantastic.
PC RPGs on the move.
Yeah, that's the game changer. Stuff that like,
and I know you can get Disco Elysium for Switch, but it's a game that really plays better with a mouse and keyboard than it does analog sticks. But that combo of traditional controller and mouse trackpads.
Because they're in the right place as well.
Like, interestingly, I've seen the Switch and the Joy-Con drift seems to have, like... Because I seem to say, I don't think it's a good idea to buy a console that has inbuilt controls. Because if the controls work, you can't buy new controls like you can with a Switch. It's like... The Switch is the only machine that's ever done that. It was never a problem before.
I don't know. There's you get it on other consoles.
Well, home consoles,
not to that
because
extreme.
You buy the control. No, I meant the Switch is the only time you've had the ability to just, in a handheld machine, buy new controllers for it.
Oh, I get you. Yeah. But then obviously the Switch is not necessarily strictly a handheld machine. It's a bit of both, isn't it? Like, it is Nintendo trying to tick both boxes and succeeding. Let's face it, they've succeeded.
I don't like. You see the hyperbole of people like, "Oh, it's a Switch." It's not remotely the Switch killer. Steam is not releasing a console that is going to topple Nintendo out of any kind of
no, because they don't. I mean, for starters, they aren't Nintendo. They are not going to suddenly get Mario. They're not going to suddenly get all the other properties, and there aren't. Realistically, there aren't.
Sony tried twice and failed. Sega never managed it at the height of Sega's kind of.
Yeah.
And all of these people released the superior console.
I mean, let's face it. That like when you're buying a Nintendo, you're not buying the Nintendo.
You are buying the Nintendo.
No, you're not buying the machine. You're buying
Nintendo.
You're buying the IPs.
You're buying into Nintendo.
This is simply the means of playing those IPs.
But I think Nintendo is the IP you're buying into.
Oh yeah, I know, but I mean, like you're getting a Switch because you know there's going to be a Mario or a Zelda or the XYZ. Like these games that are quite literally never going to appear on anything else. And also, Nintendo being Nintendo, you get a relative. I'll stop myself there because the grammar was going to be awful. You get a unique experience. That Nintendo make Nintendo game. Grammar does matter.
As long as
James, grammar matters. Grammar is what separates us from the beasts.
As long as meaning is understood, it doesn't.
I mean, with bad grammar, meaning might not be understood. And if it is understood, then it's by pure accident.
Language evolves. English is not a dead language.
It can devolve as well, so that we're like the beasts. What we'll be doing next is grunting.
No, what you're seeing is language getting better.
No, it isn't. It really isn't.
You don't have to stick with rules invented in like the, I don't know, whatever century. But getting back on track.
Fewer kings.
Well, I do think the Switch, the Steam Deck could sell well is someone who really wants to play a lot of indie games, right?
Yeah.
And is considering the Switch as a way to play them on the move.
Yeah.
But potentially already has them in a
on the
Steam library.
Plus, they're significantly cheaper on PC.
Yeah, they're
Quite a
going to
lot of the time.
potentially buy this instead of a Switch now.
Because if you play a lot of indie games, even going in at the £650 or dollar or whatever it is,
If you're mostly playing indie games, you don't need to go in at that level.
No, but I mean, if you were just for the extra space and not having to think about buying extra space and what have you, but if you were going to go for the big boy, like if you play a lot of indie games, it won't take too many to get to the point where you're starting to make your money back over buying the Switch or potentially the Switch 2 when it does finally drop.
Go through with my reservation on it as well. That's what I will be using it for.
Yeah.
And like I say, I might try and get Game Pass function on it as a fun thing. But yeah, that's what I'd be using it for.
I mean, Game Pass would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that like come a point where I do have the disposable income to like, because I haven't got a PS5 yet. PS5 is going to come before anything else for me. But if it is a point where I'm looking at a second console, maybe, because I have such limited desire to play certain Xbox games. Like, I really, 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 really want to play the Forza Horizon games. I'm okay. Like, I'm tempted, but I'm not too bothered whether I get to play the mainstream Forza games. The main line, sorry, not mainstream. Because I've got Gran Turismo, so what's the point?
They have some great studios now.
They do. They've got some like incredible studios.
Even,
and so
despite myself, despite knowing better, I'm excited for Starfield.
Well, you know, we all have our problems, James.
It's Bethesda every time, right? Thing is, like, I was reading through a book I got, a history of a guide to computer role playing games, and I was reading the entries on the early Bethesda games. Yeah, and I was like, yes, Bethesda haven't always been this. Bethesda was like good, like Morrowind,
but then they
was
just
excellent.
Haven't grown. That's the problem. That like
it's not even a growing problem. I'd argue
they found
that
something that. Sorry, go on.
It was what about him? It was chasing the mainstream. It was chasing the console. Oblivion and Skyrim are significantly simpler games than Morrowind. Morrowind sticks you on an island that's alien to you and basically goes, there you go. Find out what you need to do. Like, the characters were more wild. Voice acting wasn't necessarily as good as it became.
Did it even exist in Morrowind?
There was some, yeah. But character was much more fleshed out. The NPCs are more interesting. Your dialogue choices are more interesting. Like, it's a significantly... It looks rougher these days.
Well, of course, it's quite an old
But it's arguably a more interesting, better game than the two Elder Scrolls that follow. Fallout has got worse with each successive installment. Fallout 3 wasn't as good as... And again, obviously, Bethesda had nothing to do with Fallout 1 and 2. They bought the IP and made Fallout 3. But then New Vegas was it, and I know New Vegas is Obsidian, but obviously it was published by Bethesda. And then Fallout 4 dumbs everything down a lot, and then we have whatever Fallout 76 is. Like... So maybe making a brand new IP that apparently they've had in their minds for decades, and as weird as it sounds, maybe the creative freedom of not having to chase. And I know it's been in development for ages, so maybe this isn't the game we would see that with. But
no, but they have always favoured Xbox's consoles anyway, so it like for them potentially even just the relief.
Well, I don't think they favoured Xbox's consoles as in they're still in the mind of developing the PC, and the PS3 was significantly not a PC.
Yeah.
Right? Why for 360 it was easy.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then, I mean, because last gen, right? I wouldn't say they favoured Xbox last gen. The games
I
run
can't
as well
even
on
remember.
PS4 as they do on.
Yeah, they were equally as shite on
Yeah.
on both. Yeah.
But like a Bethesda that doesn't necessarily have to worry about sales in the same way anymore. Obviously, they need to sell, but Game Pass and they need to push Game Pass
There's also
subscriptions.
there's also the thing of like they almost are when they're not necessarily the head of the table anymore. Like, yes, they're being billed as like this semi-autonomous thing, but like realistically, Phil Spencer's going to take care of everything else.
I think they
Like,
should be semi-autonomous to a certain extent.
no, I mean they are going to be semi-autonomous. Like, but I mean that like there's now an element of like they don't necessarily have to worry too much about Arcane,
Yeah.
or they don't have to necessarily like Todd Howard now can just concentrate, and his core team can just concentrate on being creators, as opposed to being
I'm still way more
business
excited
execs.
to see what Arcane put out under Microsoft than I am Bethesda. But
well, and the rest of the teams.
yeah,
Like,
there's something about
like,
Starfield that, and I think it's got that retro sci-fi look, right? I'm cautiously excited for Starfield with the expectation that I'm going to be disappointed.
I think the thing is, I just don't know what it would be, because like with how
maybe that's one of the reasons I am cautiously excited for it. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't
like
have a
with
firm.
how their previous games have been. Like, again, obviously going back to what you were just saying, and very good points. Obviously, like Starfield has the potential to be as lonely and pointless as any game that's ever been made. And if that's the case, just play the very, very good No Man's Sky now that it's had all those updates. Like, if there's no real direction and focus, like, then play No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky is arguably a survival game, and that's not for the very, very, very acquired taste.
Whereas, like, with Mass Effect,
I think it's going to be chock full of NPCs and things.
Yeah, but again, I mean, like,
how well fleshed out they are is a different matter.
Because by the time it comes out, we'll have seen more footage of whatever the next Mass Effect game is, which seems like it's a refocus on the series.
Dragon Age before Mass Effect.
We'll be getting Dragon Age before, but I think we'll see some more.
We haven't even seen any Dragon Age yet.
But I think again, I mean, like,
Starfield's out next winter.
Yeah.
It's not that far away.
Yeah, but I mean, you've just had the Mass Effect trilogy remaster as well, so just play them again.
Styles of game.
I know they're different styles of game, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's going to be for a modern audience. It's going to fall in that middle point where, like, do you need to play it?
You also have to remember, in regards to not wanting to play Bethesda games, me and specifically you are very much in the minority.
Yeah.
People love Skyrim. Skyrim has been released on anything that has a chip.
Oh yeah, I mean, going back to our previous discussion, and it will most certainly get a Valve Skyrim edition.
Unfortunately, Skyrim, like, do you see the meme go around like Todd Howard wakes up upset because he realizes Skyrim's already on Steam Deck.
He can remove it and put it back.
But, yes. Yeah. To be fair, again, Elder Scrolls games in a handheld format, and I know you can get Skyrim on Switch. It doesn't play brilliantly, but you can. But then,
I mean,
does Skyrim play
Skyrim doesn't play brilliantly.
I play Skyrim several. I like Skyrim.
You can get Skyrim on Alexa, so
yeah.
You know.
I mean,
as an audio adventure.
That's the thing. Even despite their faults, I still like Bethesda games. You just have to put in a fair amount of imagination yourself. But, you know, I'm a tabletop RPG player. I'm used to having to put in a fair amount of the imagination myself.
Yeah.
Like, and Skyrim starts core computer because again, BioWare moved away from what they originally was doing as well. The thing is, BioWare, we're talking about chasing a mainstream audience. BioWare stepped closer to your tastes. While Bethesda didn't. All these stem from computer RPGs, which did expect the player to put in some of the...
Yeah.
Like... Because... And again, I don't think choice matters anymore because there isn't an end point where the choice has any impact. But the choice is artificial in BioWare games. It's a binary like, hey, do you want to be a dick or not? That, and obviously you can have saying over your characters that live and survive. And I think I love Mass Effect and Dragon Age, but the Mass Effect trilogy by the end is barely an RPG. It's a shooter with questions. Right, like Dragon Age stays a little bit truer to its nature.
Yeah.
But there's a reason when people are talking about the classics of this genre.
Yeah.
And I don't know if these games really are in the traditional style of a genre anymore. But they still talk about Baldur's Gate. They still talk about the original Fallouts. They still talk about things like Morrowind, right? Because in chasing that, and there's nothing wrong with going for mainstream audience. You want as many people to play your game as possible. Just to clarify, I'm not gatekeeping here. There's nothing wrong with going for as big of a mainstream audience as you can.
Lies. James is a gamer.
But
yeah,
there's certain elements of the genre that get lost along the way. Like in latter Mass Effects, your stats don't fundamentally matter. Not really. Like you're putting points into things for putting points into things. Like you're not. BioWare is wanting to tell a story that you don't have a massive say in.
But then I think BioWare are very, very good storytellers. Like when BioWare are on form, like they are very good at what they do. So I think, like, obviously, I don't think there's any problem really with the way that BioWare go about it. Whereas, like with Bethesda, they obviously aren't necessarily very good storytellers.
Bethesda aren't really trying to tell that
they
much
are
of a
good
story.
world builders. And I think, I mean that is where half my issue with Bethesda comes. The other half is just how badly polished.
Bethesda needs to iron out. I don't even think I don't.
No, it's not polished.
Visually, I think the engine is fine if it wasn't buggy.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Bethesda and one of the reasons Bethesda games are full of so much bugs is because of a kind of open world game with the level of choice it has. Right. The fact that you can become a vampire, a werewolf, you don't have to become either of those things. In a lot of games, that would be something that happens. It's just a side quest you can fall into in Skyrim, right? Like Bethesda give you a world to play in.
Yeah.
But it's not the most fleshed out because it is just a sandbox.
Yeah. I mean, I think that...
I still think the perfect blending will be...
Red Dead Redemption 2.
No, cause that's not an RPG. Not really. It's an open world action game.
But
with, again, a story... And don't get me wrong, again, great game, but I've not finished it, but it's a story that Rockstar wants to tell you.
Oh, it is. I mean, I think that's the thing, though. It is that middle point.
It's not. The middle point is getting, say, Bethesda design a world, and for someone to write a storyline that was in it, but that functions in the same way as every other side quest. So you can pursue this story if you really want to. But a story beyond, like, oh yeah, Beat for Dragons. Oh yeah, Stat for Portals opening. Like something with a bit more meat on its bones, but is just a quest line in the world that you could happily ignore.
I get you, but then I think obviously that's where maybe Rockstar has succeeded with things like Grand Theft Auto Online and to a lesser extent Red Dead Redemption Online. Obviously, fewer people play it, but they've done an incredible job with it.
It's fundamentally what tabletop gaming's for.
Yeah,
and
then because I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 as a world, as a rich, dense environment with variety and things to do, is pretty much unparalleled.
I think the truth is you can't truly transplant that tabletop role-playing experience into a video game.
Yeah, I know. I mean, obviously, with you talking about the are you a good guy or are you a dick scale? I mean, obviously, Red Dead's got that. It does have, but it does have value in Red Dead because if you go full dick, then you're just not welcome in any town. Like you become so notorious that it actually adds a challenge.
Wanted system.
Oh yeah.
Now, Disco Elysium, that is a game that choices seem to functionally matter. Like, it's not a good guy, bad guy scale. It's like everything you make has an effect on how people view you. But it's
because it's to do with elements of your psyche, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not. Yeah, it's really not a binary.
So it's a multi-point scale as opposed to it's a graph as opposed to a line.
I think, at least from what I've played of it, even discussing a graph as opposed to a line seems to not really give it justice. Yeah. It feels like you're making actual choice. I need to play more of it. I loved what I played.
I need to play it, but it's something that I will.
If you're going to, I would just buy it for that laptop that's in front of you. As opposed
I won't get it for this one because this is the old one that's absolutely terrible.
You probably still run it. It's not exactly.
You'd probably still run it, intensive. But we'd probably play it on the other one.
Yeah. But I think on that note, we've discussed the Dune trailer. We've
discuss the two handhelds. There's a couple of other things. We'll just very briefly mention Netflix.
Oh yeah, they're getting into games. Apparently,
they're getting into games. There's going to be some indie games available through subscription. Part of your existing subscription. So just for phones
is going to be intriguing, I guess.
Yeah. It's as it's just going to be for mobile gaming to begin with, I assume it will be similar to what Apple Arcade is.
Amazon have been giving away games with Prime if you look hard enough for ages. They don't shout about it, and it's technically via Twitch. But
yeah. Whereas obviously, what kicked off this news being revealed, at least, was a data miner finding some PlayStation assets hidden in Netflix somewhere, which is partly to do with Netflix's movie deal with Sony Pictures.
Yeah.
So Netflix now get first dibs on all Sony films.
That's for home release.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah. So once it's been to the cinemas, Netflix get first dibs.
Oh no, it's second. Netflix is second.
Go on.
Netflix gets the second viewing rights after whoever gets the first from them in regards to viewing windows. So say Sky Cinema had viewing window 1.
Yeah.
Netflix will consistently always get viewing window 2 from them.
Oh, so I get you. So
still sell viewing window 1 to different places.
Because in theory, there's still the rental market, which would be what Sky Cinema would have.
Well, no, even like for the not necessarily rental, but home premiere, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can still sell for home premiere to different places, but when that window expires, Netflix basically gets it.
So it's the home streaming window, in the
Yes.
I mean, obviously
Sky
the line
Cinema gets it for a year.
Yeah, the lines are a bit blurred now as to what like TV
so when
and not TV.
When that year where Sky's like, oh yeah, we've just got hot new premiere of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of any other Sony properties.
All the Spider-Verse stuff, because it's going to be Venom and
Netflix will then basically get it for its lifespan afterwards.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, interesting, because it does look like potentially there's some gaming-related stuff that might come from that as well with Sony. I saw some interesting discussions that maybe they might lean in on like FMV games.
Yeah,
but using Sony properties. So obviously Bandersnatch did quite well, which is essentially an FMV game.
Yeah.
That like maybe using the various IP, like Ghost of Tsushima was one of the banners that they found.
Yeah.
Like getting maybe an animation studio to make a Ghost of Tsushima interactive story would be really cool.
Or the other long guess is maybe Netflix is their Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, again, like, one of the issues with doing a true Game Pass competitor is having the server power for it, which obviously Microsoft were always going to have that. Whereas, like,
the
Netflix
other problem you have is you don't necessarily want to enter into... Microsoft is throwing money, right?
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily want to enter into that bidding war for third party.
Mm.
So if your Game Pass, and as good as Sony's first party titles are, if your Game Pass equivalent is only first party titles, you're not necessarily pulling that many people in, and you're losing out on first party sales of your £70 games, right? And you're not spending money to get the third party pulls.
Yeah.
So your Game Pass all of a sudden just isn't as good as Game Pass. While
whereas if it was a question of PS Plus is now Netflix,
I don't think it will be. I think it might be a case of you can buy the two combined and get like a more expensive version of it. Of either will get you.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, PS Plus is not expensive in the grand scheme. It's
both companies could basically sell. Sony could sell PS Plus with Netflix package, and Netflix could sell Netflix with PS Plus package.
Yeah, which if it was like 15 units of currency a month, so dollars, euros, pounds.
Yeah.
And you got essentially the ultimate package with Netflix and PS Plus. That's not a bad amount of money.
And you don't have to
especially if it was
party.
Yeah. Because in theory, you could get Netflix to stump up some of the bill for some of the third party stuff as well. Because obviously it's good for Netflix.
I don't think they'd bother with third party.
Maybe
they would just make it.
I mean, you get third parties on them anyway. Like, but yeah, interesting anyway.
Oh, I mean, you get third party with PS Plus. I don't think you'd get third party on the streaming cloud based stuff.
Maybe not.
Well, not as many as you get with Game Pass anyway.
Probably not, no. But I don't think we're going to get as many with Game Pass in the long run anyway.
I still do, because you look at the relationships they're building with Square, the relationships they're building with Sony. Not Sony, Sega. Oh. Sorry about that, guys. We've... Hope he's coming back.
Hello. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Don't know what happened there.
Don't have video of him. I think we'll call it a day there.
Yes. Because something a bit strange happened there. I don't know whether it was an internet dropout or my computer just decided to complain.
I hope you enjoyed the news, guys. Hope you enjoyed watching the Dune trailer with us. June. You know, whatever side of the pond you're on. Have fun and stay safe. Bye.
See you later. Bye.